Hey guys, Grandy Tamias here, and today I'll be giving my full, spoiler-filled review for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, after seeing this movie twice, I've given a fair amount of thought to all the aspects that stuck out to me most. Compared to the first movie, this one has some lower lows, but also has higher highs, and overall I think is ever so slightly better. There were a few jokes that didn't sit well with me the first time, but on my second watch, I did start to understand why the filmmakers decided to put them in. Some jokes from the first movie returned, like the latte with steamed Austrian goat milk, which I thought was pretty funny. I'm glad they decided to bring Agent Stone back, and while he has about the same amount of screen time as the first movie, they did give him some more purpose. And I couldn't help but think that his obsession over Robotnik was beyond professional. Like, I'm sure many people are shipping these two. Some jokes I felt had no business returning, like Commander Walters' affinity for Olive Garden. Like, some people in the first theater I went to audibly said, "Oh no," during that moment. Before I get into some of the bigger lore points, I want to talk about two scenes of this film that I've heard the most complaints about: the Siberian Tavern and Rachel's wedding in Hawaii. The latter I'm partially okay with, at least on paper. It was a nice plot twist to reveal that Gunn now exists in this universe, and that the wedding was a setup for them to spy on Tom and Maddie since they're still harboring Sonic. I'll talk more about Gunn later, but the problem with the wedding isn't so much about the wedding itself, but rather two certain aspects. First, as soon as Tom did that little magic trick with JoJo, I immediately saw where the movie was heading, that he had accidentally swapped the wedding ring with the portal ring, and he was going to have to get into some conflict with Rachel and Randall to get it back. After all, in the trailer, he throws the wedding ring with none of the guest seats behind him, and then in the movie, the portal opens up in front of the altar. Then for like 10 minutes following the capture of Sonic, Tails, and Tom, the plot completely detours and Rachel takes up a lot of the focus. I, like many others, don't really like Rachel. I think that she's annoying, and did anyone ever really care about her relationship with Randall? His confession that he actually does love Rachel just comes out of nowhere, and well, I guess we were spared any more screen time of the two of them actually building their relationship, which would have taken away even more from the animal character stuff. Although, it was cool to see Maddie get some more involvement in that heist scene, so I guess those 10 minutes weren't all bad. The tavern scene was essentially completely pointless, the only cool moment being Sonic doing his pose from the cover of the first Sonic Adventure game, but that could have easily been repurposed into the moment later where he slow-motion maneuvers through the lasers of the Buzz Bombers during the snowboarding sequence. Speaking of slow motion, there is no excuse for Sonic not being able to use his Quicksilver over-the-hedge ability during the tavern scene like he did in the biker bar of the first movie. He should have just gotten Tails and the map out of there once their cover was already blown. And Sonic's meow was another joke that had no business returning. They should have replaced that with Sonic and Tails hunkering down in a cave for the night to wait out the blizzard, and maybe Tails could have used one of his gadgets to start a fire. He could have revealed more about his backstory as well. Maybe they could have even encountered an angry bear in the cave if they wanted to spice up the intensity. I will say that what we got did have some good heart-to-heart between Sonic and Tails, and perhaps it could have been more bearable if they had chosen a different song than Uptown Funk. I already mentioned the Sonic Adventure 1 pose, but some of the other references were really cool, like Sonic gulping an air bubble when Labyrinth Zone was flooding, which reminds me, I had predicted that we were going to get an orchestral version of the Drowning theme, and they should have done that. We were so close! Tails' little translator gadget has a set of numbers in the bottom right corner, which are actually the North American release date for the original Sonic 2 video game on the Sega Genesis. And Sonic knocking over the Death Egg robot the way he does the robot in the 2006 game opening cutscene, that was really cool too. The manual for the Death Egg robot looking like the old Sega Genesis manual was pretty cool, as well as Knuckles mentioning grapes like in his original character profile. I also predicted a Uganda Knuckles reference, and that did happen near the beginning, just not how I expected it. Last Easter egg detail I want to point out, which will lead into the first part of my lore section, is that this is the first piece of Western Sonic media in quite a long time, since the Archie comics, to show that Knuckles has a father. And when I was watching this in the theater for the first time, I was thinking, oh man, Ken Penders is going to be really pissed. This is pretty much another prediction of mine that also partially came true with the whole flashback thing. We see the Echidna clan, but they really missed an opportunity to show us Pachacamac again, or Tikal, who is 2 years younger than Knuckles, so she would have been like a baby at this time. And y'all know what I think about Tikal, so seeing her as a baby or toddler, that would have been so adorable. Unfortunately, with Knuckles being the last Echidna in this movie universe, as mentioned by himself and Tails, that means Tikal is dead, if she ever existed in this universe at all. And since the Master Emerald was in the hands, or rather talons, of the owls, Tikal more than likely did not sacrifice herself to it. This is compounded by the fact that we don't see her spirit fly out of the Master Emerald when it breaks at the end of the film, nor do we see a familiar puddle of water drip out of it. Not only does this suggest that Tikal was killed by Longclaw or another owl, if there are any others, we might not get Chaos in this universe either. Unless they radically reinvent these two characters to explain why they're there, we're never going to get a proper film adaptation of Sonic Adventure. To be fair, I did set aside the theories from my previous videos when watching the movie, and I certainly enjoyed it for what it was, but there were other workarounds to include all the changes with the owls and the origin of the emeralds, while still leaving open the opportunity to have a mostly game-accurate backstory for the Echidnas. Like maybe instead of Longclaw killing the entire Echidna hunting party, she only killed some of them, and Pachacamac was forced to retreat, but Knuckles' father was among the casualties. I think that just the loss of his father would have been enough to motivate Knuckles. They didn't need to kill his whole clan. Then maybe he could have volunteered himself to travel the universe in search of Sonic to avenge his father, and maybe, like when he had Sonic pinned to a tree, he could have mentioned that restoring the ultimate power of his people was on behalf of Pachacamac. I think Knuckles could have been loyal to him, and when he instead switches to Sonic's side, maybe we could have seen the repercussions of that in the upcoming Knuckles series. Perhaps in a later film or series, since Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and the Wachowskis have the Master Emerald, we could have seen a living Tikal sacrifice herself to it in modern day, like I suggested in my video. Another part about this whole thing that makes it really weird is that, at 2 points during the film, Sonic and Longclaw quote nearly word for word Tikal's line that the emeralds changed thoughts into power. So it's kind of like they gave Tikal's role to Longclaw, as the one who gives a history lesson in the ghostly hologram form. So yeah, I'm pretty disappointed about this, but there's a silver lining to everything, so who knows, maybe they'll say that Tikal somehow escaped and that Knuckles only thought that he was the last Echidna, or maybe since the movies are now borrowing certain elements from the comics, they could instead have Chaos be an alien like in the Fleetway series, unless they somehow work the Chow into this universe. Unfortunately, we don't get confirmation on whether Longclaw is dead or alive, but since Knuckles says that all the Echidnas have since passed on, I assume that not only did Longclaw survive, but she was able to kill all of the Echidnas. Maybe that's why she sent Sonic to Earth, to get him out of harm's way so that she could unleash some massive power that would kill all of the Echidnas. In that case, perhaps Longclaw and her culture aren't as pure of heart as we were led to believe. Speaking of power, we never get an explanation as to the origin of Sonic's lightning abilities, or why Knuckles has them too. Sonic was led to believe that the Echidnas were after him, and in fact we even see one of them holding a hedgehog-sized net. But now that we know that the owls and Echidnas were at war, maybe Longclaw just told Sonic that his powers were unique to hide the truth. But then, why does Knuckles have the lightning powers too? We don't see anyone in the hunting party with powers, otherwise they could have used them against Sonic and Longclaw. And Tails doesn't have lightning powers either, though he does have an orange dash trail when he flies really fast. Maybe Sonic and Knuckles are just outliers, maybe they have some rare genetic ability. In that case, maybe a few of the other characters will have powers too. Amy could have pink lightning, we did see red lightning around Shadow's eyes in the mid-credits scene. Though I'm not sure how I would feel about Big the Cat being able to shoot purple lightning. Moving on, I do like the addition to the lore that the owls and Echidnas were at war with each other. We never did get an explanation as to who they were fighting against in Sonic Adventure, so I guess that confirms their motivation, as well as the Chaos and Master Emeralds being created by them instead of just being one of their owners. And from the Owl Temples, we now know that Sonic was not the first Mobian, or whatever the Anthro animals go by, to have visited Earth, making me wonder, what else could they have been doing throughout history? But I am a little confused about the current state of the Chaos Emeralds. Like, they explain that they combine into the Master Emerald, but after it breaks and Sonic becomes supersonic with them, he gets rid of them by shooting them up into the sky, and Knuckles rebuilds the Master Emerald. So, are they separate now, like in the games? And if so, where did the Chaos Emeralds go? Are they going to do, a scavenger hunt in future installments? Maybe like in Season 3 of Sonic X, where all the Emeralds went across the galaxy and they had to travel to different planets to find them? Hopefully, this won't be the last time Sonic goes super. And Knuckles alludes to the possibility that Sonic having ultimate power may not make him the same Sonic that we all know. I know it may seem like a cliche Lord of the Rings trope where having ultimate power could form bad habits, as a friend of mine pointed out, but I wonder if this is going to have any implications for future movies. Oh, but I do think that they should have had Crush 40 do some kind of rock anthem for the supersonic scene. That would have made that scene perfect for me. Alright, it's time to talk about the mid-credits scene. The first time I saw this movie, my entire theater lost their minds. And it turns out that my Shadow video from last year was right, which really surprised me because I was starting to have my doubts about it leading up to the film's release. I just felt like they wouldn't have set up a major character like Shadow so soon and not Amy Rose, who has been around for longer. Who knows, maybe they'll both be in the third movie, and they can sort of do again what they did with Tails and Knuckles. Like Tails, Amy doesn't really require an elaborate backstory to introduce, whereas Shadow, like Knuckles, is definitely going to have a greater influence on the plot. Oh, and if they're going to go all in on the Sonic Adventure 2 plot, they gotta have Rouge the Bat as well. She doesn't really require an elaborate backstory either, but hopefully her presence won't make the influx of new characters overbearing. And since we have Knuckles now, it would be cool to see their romance/rivalry. Maybe she'll even be a gun agent like in the games. Though Commander Walters does say that after the events in San Francisco in the first movie, Gun was created to stop alien threats, and Rouge is an alien. So maybe it'll be a Sonic X situation where they catch her first and then she agrees to become an agent. Although they may have to change Rouge's outfit since, well... I do want to do a separate video about how Gun and Robotnik connect to Shadow in the movie universe, but I want to bring up a problem that I have with this reveal. Whereas the Echidna backstory I talked about earlier should have incorporated more stuff from the source material, in my opinion, the Shadow reveal has the opposite problem. It's too much like the source material, and, at least from what we know in these two films so far, doesn't mesh well with the backstory of Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik. But I already explained why in my aforementioned Shadow video, so go check that out if you want to learn why. Lastly, I want to mention the recent news that Jim Carrey has considered retiring from acting and fan concerns that he may not be in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. From the way he was defeated in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I think he's still alive. I don't think that he died when his robot crashed to the ground. And we see Agent Stone disguised as a gun agent, so I'm sure Robotnik is planning a big comeback. Not to mention, he is pretty relevant to Shadow. They're both connected by the involvement of Gerald Robotnik and Maria, so I can't imagine them not doing that now. But as for the real-world reasoning behind whether or not Jim Carrey will return, he has said in previous interviews and such that Robotnik has not yet reached his apotheosis and that there's a lot that he wanted to do with the character. And after the second film, I still don't think that he has exhausted the potential of Dr. Robotnik. I'm pretty confident that he'll be back, at least for one more film. If they go for or beyond, I would certainly want Jim Carrey to be around for as long as possible, because it might be hard to fall back on any of the other Sonic villains, especially since there aren't a lot of human ones who can be played in live action by an actor, and I don't see any singular CGI villain carrying the rest of the film series. Overall, I really enjoyed Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and would definitely recommend it to anyone who liked the first movie. The tavern scene definitely should have been replaced with something shorter, some jokes should have stayed in the first film, and they squandered the opportunity to introduce Tikal and Chaos. On the upside, Sonic, Tails, and especially Knuckles were voiced and characterized exceptionally well. The action sequences, like the Labyrinth Zone fight and the final battle with Super Sonic, was really cool. The returning human characters, not named Rachel, were good, and some of them had more to do this time. There's a good lesson about what it means to be a hero and taking responsibility to help others, and there's a promising outlook for the future of these films. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, like your favorite or least favorite aspects. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, which goes a long way for this channel. You can follow me on Twitter and Discord, linked in the description. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed, have a nice day, and thank you for your time.